Oh yes, oh yes. Welcome into the latest episode of the PHNX Rising podcast. Happy Monday to those of you who are joining us. Appreciate y'all being here. I am Max Simpson, and I'm not joined by Owen Evans. You know, I was kind of sick of the guy. He's jealous of me flexing literally and figuratively on Saturday's post-game show. Over it, he's out. He'll come back on Wednesday, but he's out for tonight. I am instead joined by Mr. Ryan Sykora. How are we doing today?
Doing good. I'm glad that I can come in for Owen. I came in for you. I think after last week's game.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to know that I'm a AAA call up away from just getting on the show.
The man knows how to deputize for the best. Puts in a very nice shift. Heard your stuff. It was weird when Owen was hosting. Seemingly a lot less ad transitions. Fans were apparently in uproar from what I recall from that happening. As producer Jacob is absolutely agreeing upon.
Owen said the opposite.
Owen says a lot of things that I try to tune out, which I'm sure he feels the same. But hey, all that being said, appreciate you joining us. We have a good show ahead. This show is going to be a little bit different than most. We are going to do a little bit of a further recap into Rising's 1-0 win against Orange County. Really want to make sure we break down that in its entirety. But I think having you here, it's going to be a really cool perspective where I want to take a bit of a zoomed out look per se of how Rising has fared this season, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, and kind of just taking a refresh of, we often talk within this team from a game to game perspective, really kind of getting someone outside of just Owens and I's perspective. So I'm happy you're here for joining us.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. 10 games in, there's a lot to talk about. They've been good, they've been bad, they've risen up the table, and they've started to finally find a little bit of their form. So if we were going to do it now, it's probably the time to do it.
Amen to that. Well, let's get into the match a bit against Orange County. Again, Rising with a 1-0 win over their foes up in the Bay. Take a look at the stats here, right? The expected goals. We went over this on Saturday, but it's just worth illustrating. Again, another match where Rising dominated possession 57-43. No surprise, they typically hover around that 60%, but something that I think if you would have asked most Rising fans, not just about how Rising has played this season, but look at how Orange County's played. Rising lost the XG battle and the shots battle, the on-target battle. It was something where there were moments we thought Orange County was going to go up 1-0 early in the first half.
Yeah, there was, I think, a lot of opportunities, and it all starts with Manuel Arteaga, who's awesome for Orange County. He might be the best player in USL this year. He's a guy who's had MLS pedigree. He's really, really great at what he does, and he causes a lot of headaches for teams, and he drops in as a striker. It's so hard to really match that when you've got a guy who can check back and pick up the ball and facilitate, but then also get forward and create chances for himself. You look at a lot of that, and he missed a lot of opportunities, and they as a team were certainly better out of the gates, and I think a lot of that is Rising didn't really know what to fully expect from Orange County. They've got a new interim manager, Morten Carlson, and he's kind of an extension of what their former manager, Richard Chaplow, used to be. Defensive, but tries to be a little more expressive at times and try and keeps the ball and try and press a little bit. And I think when you have an interim manager and you're facing a guy like that, sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what they're going to do. There's an adjustment period. And also, there wasn't a lot of energy in the first half. They were really, I think, good on the defensive side, picking up and pressing and keeping the ball. You saw, I think, of that 57%, they had 63 at halftime. So they were really dominant on the ball in the first half. But what they didn't have enough of was guys that were taking chances. Carlos Harvey was a little too unselfish. I'm sure Owen talked about that on Saturday, and they had Jose Hernandez, who's normally a number 10, rather. He was dropped deeper, so there's less creativity further up the field. I think that's maybe the primary reason they struggled.
Yeah, it was definitely, going on the Jose Andres Hernandez, kind of further up the field. It was interesting. It was something where, we saw against, his goal a few matches back that he really was able to push forward and kind of really be in that attacking threat. But it's something where that I see as the chat is already chiming in with the protocol. Eddie, all right, yeah, Ryan to say something to Max. It's basically what Owen does. Thomas, say Max is buying everyone beers. It's actually that's fair. Oh no,
Friday night.
We're not clipping. Actually, we're gonna get into that, but I do have a decree later in the show. Don't you worry. But me, I'm already going off tangent as per the show. No, it's something where we have seen Jose Andres Hernandez typically go up the pitch. In that match where he was able to score the goal, get an assist, but I think really kind of seeing how not just where he played, but really with Carlos Harvey, it's something where that midfield with him, Jose Andres Hernandez and Zambrano, it is a dynamic trio in there. And it's something where, I don't know, man, there's been a bit of mix and matching here.
It's really fun because they all do different things. We talk about how they're all midfielders, but they're all different types of midfielders.
Certainly.
Jose Andres is much more of a guy who wants to get on the ball, take 2 touches, move it along. Renzo likes to drive with the ball at his feet and carry it. And Harvey's much of the same, but he's just a little bit better at it. And Harvey's also a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot better also technically. So he provides a little bit of everything. And it's really nice when you have those 3 guys. You can play them together, and it allows you to be really fluid. They start off in what is essentially a 3-4-2-1 with their 2 10s. Normally it's been Fede and Trejo. This last game it was Harvey and Trejo. And what they can do is they can drop all 3 guys in the midfield and have a 3-5-2. They can switch and move Lambert to a right back or Crutzen to a left back and play in a 4-2-3-1. When you have those 3 guys on the field, it makes them really, really versatile. And that helps them, and that's why they're so good at making in-game adjustments, is because they have all these guys that are really good at doing different things, and Juan Guerra is really good at recognizing what the game needs. So when you've got all these different players that do these different things and serve these different needs, and you need to change something to maybe make one of these players stand out a little bit more, it's just that. It's really simple. It's really easy, and I think that's what really changed the game at the end of the day against Orange County is they were starting to shift more into a back 4, and in the second half they were able to get the goal. Arteaga was obviously at brilliance for that, but they changed some things, and that's why they were very dominant in the first half and very dominant in other ways in the second half.
Well, and talking about that midfield trio, it's something where Carlos Harvey, understandably, he has often been the man of the match in our post-game shows. Jose Andres Hernandez, notably getting on the score sheet in matches. And yet, it is Renzo Zambrano that I think he has often been the guy who flies under the radar, the guy who isn't getting the buzz, that he is just... Listen, he's a guy who... Every match, I feel he gives a relatively consistent performance of, you're going to get out of him. He's able to hum things along, really helping to connect the midfield and string things from midfield to offense. And that's exactly what we saw with, it chalked it up as an assist for that Manuel Arteaga goal. At that point, maybe he, settles, kind of takes his touches. I personally don't know if I'd call an assist, but
Arteaga gives himself.
I was going to say, yeah, he does give himself the assist. But I mean, it sets up that goal, which seemingly... I would say comes a bit out of nowhere, not just in the run of play, but even just we have seen Rising at times. They take that over-the-top aerial strike, and that has really been effective in the season opener against Charleston Battery in some of the attacking threats throughout the season. It's somehow where they lull the defense to sleep, sweeping it from side to side, a little bit of back and forth between the midfield. But it is that breaking ball that it's not just to lump it forward. There is purpose behind it.
Yeah, that's honestly the important part is they lull you to sleep, right? They have these 20, 25-ish so sequences of passes, and then they might give it over once, and as soon as you try and rush a little bit forward, they win it back because they have Harvey, they have Zambrano, who's also good for about a yellow card a game.
Yeah, to be fair, everyone in the midfield is
Harvey,
definitely
Zambrano, maybe not Jose Andres,
maybe not.
You get the idea. So they win it back, and then they go the other way, and it's one ball over the top. Arteaga, they've got the athletes up there. Arteaga, his individual strength, Trejo's pace and ability to run at you one-on-one. Even Harvey, who often finds himself way up there, gets into these types of spots.
Certainly.
You saw that against Hartford when he went one-on-one and won the game on the little turnover there. That was different, but still that idea. They've been really good at taking you out of your game and then all of a sudden just breaking on you and giving you one chance to stop them. They've been pretty clinical at times, maybe not in their chance creation, but when they get a chance that's pretty clear-cut, they've finished it off, and I think that's really fun to watch, and they're getting it from different spots. Arteaga doesn't seem like he's got 5 goals in 10 games this season, but he does, and that's up towards the top of the league. Trejo's maybe the most fun guy to watch in the team. Harvey's above the level. When Varela's on, he's great. They've got so many good players, and that's really important thing is they're 10 games in. It's a really important look, and they've still got 20 or so more games to really get into full stride. Juan Guerra says by match day 25, that's when he expects them to really be at their best. We're only on match day 10. They've got a long way to go, and they're still doing what they did against Orange County on Saturday night.
Well, it's something that we, Owen and I have routinely emphasized on this show is that these guys need time to gel, not just the fact that you have a new manager within his system, but also it's brand new guys. Seemingly no one has really played together before outside of the few holdovers from last season. It takes time to gel, and I think you see bits and pieces of it from match to match, something that you really just need to let it simmer. As Thomas says, one is cooking and the appetizers are ready. But, something that to me was quite a tantalizing meal was really that goal, Manuel Arteaga's finish against Orange County, this 1-0 victory that we are discussing is something where you really got, in my mind, the full Manuel Arteaga experience. First off, he has that run in where you think for a second, okay, well, this guy's offsides, has the penchant for being offsides. Okay, cool. He takes the touch and you're thinking a little bit of a wayward touch for a second, but he controls brilliantly. To his credit, he then shoulders off the defender, something that, he uses big frame to do so. But the something that I had not expected, and Owen and I were both kind of stunned, is the finish. The little bit of the turn, the shimmy shake, holds it for maybe a second long, but my word, he megs the keeper, and that is an absolute striker's finish. I think that was something where we have seen him score, where he has to be in the right place at the right time, where he needs the service and delivery in, but he did it all on his own.
Yeah, and it was the perfect striker's finish. Near post, your goalkeeper is kind of off balance, and you just hit it a little bit harder than you normally would. You don't have to place it, just strike it. And he got a little lucky going through the 5-hole, but it works out, right? And that's the Arteaga that we brought in. That's the Arteaga that they were looking for from Juan Guerra to bring in, and that's what he's wanted to see, is a guy who can obviously work hard and press and do all the other little side hustles that he kind of does, but it's also just this one moment in a game that's 0-0 that you need a guy to solve it. Sometimes it can't be Trejo because he gets marked out of the game. Harvey can't save them every time. He's a defensive midfielder. Varela wasn't on the pitch, and you need Arteaga. You need your number 9, the guy who's supposed to score your goals, to show up for you. We've been waiting on him to do that in a game like this, and he did, and it was kind of the perfect time for him to do it because, again, they looked really flat, and they kind of were trending in that moment in terms of chance creation, but it came out of nowhere in a lot of ways, and that was kind of the key of the game is they got this one goal, they could sit a little bit more, and they could try some different things, and Orange County felt a little flustered. It's not a very good Orange County team. They're towards the bottom of the West. If you went up 1-0, you had a chance to really keep them at bay, and again, it was crucial when it came as well because they were looking to make some changes. I think Jai and Varela came on right after that, and they were very much coming on to change the game in an attacking sense. And then all of a sudden it was weird because they had to go defend because Arteaga did it himself. It was right at the moment where you thought the game was going to be changed tactically because of the players that were being brought on, but Arteaga kind of kept it at where it was, which was a defensive slugfest in a lot of ways.
No, certainly. And again, seeing Thomas's comment, Arteaga denier is really quiet now, which notable. Not seeing Mr. Mikey Vennerplus in this chat. Maybe
he's coming now.
Maybe he'll. I was gonna say he's gonna pop up now, but it's something where you see that individual moment of brilliance and. It's a tough job for a manager of saying, how can I almost isolate and harness these abilities of these players to perform, these attacking nuances, really show their creativity, but then also fitting into the system and playing how they want to play. Is there a balance to that? Or because what does that look like? It's tough to see where on some games they are completely system-based, and then there are other ones where, especially a game against Hartford, right, it's just individual moments of brilliance.
Yeah, it's about finding a way to get the quality players to fit the game model that Juan talks about all the time. And they brought these players in to do that. Juan spoke a lot in the preseason about how they had guys that were very versatile, and they had guys that could play different roles and guys that were individually really talented. And we didn't necessarily see all these different roles through the first 3 or 4 match days, but now we've started to see all this versatility of Harvey being able to play as a center back one week, and then the next week as a center mid, and then the next week as an attacking midfielder. He's able to rotate around. Jose Hernandez has played as a 10, as a 6, as an 8. You've got all these different guys that are able to play there, and when you have guys that are that good and that individual quality that they have, like you're talking about, when they're also so versatile and they all have the character and the mental that Gary's spoken about as they're all leaders, that's kind of the one quality is when you say everybody's a leader, that means they'll do anything for the team. That's what a leader would do. And so they have all these talented quality players that are coming in, right? But they're leaders. Their mentality is that they want to win for the teams. They want to succeed for the team. So they're going to play anywhere to fit the game model best. And also they did a really good job. I remember we talked a little bit last year about the team and how it was like they brought all these players in and we thought they'd work, and they thought they'd work, the Rising did, but they didn't. This year they really stepped up in the scouting and they found the right guys. And so far 10 games in, even though I think maybe at times this year it's been a little more disappointing than we would have hoped to see, they've still fit a little bit better than last year's signings did. So the recruitment stuff this year has been really fantastic as well.
No, certainly. And I think the thing that we saw a bit during preseason, and it's something that, you continue to harp on, that the team continues to harp on, is within the system and how it is fluid, where you are being able to build up by lulling a team to sleep, but then also being able to hit the quick strike, show the individual brilliance where you need to. You need to have guys who, even if it's not tactically playing different positions, they need to be able to say, hey, if we need to speed it up, got to speed it up. If we need to, really build through possession, do that. If it's building through a counterattack, we do that. And it's something where, it's easier said than done. Of course, every team wants to be able to play versatile, but actually having the personnel to do it is a different story. And we have seen rising players, especially throughout the wingbacks, throughout the defense, really play a number of positions. You've seen the midfield being incredibly fluid. Outside of whoever's playing number 9, Manuel Arteaga, Jackson Conway when he subs in, the attackers around him really like to operate within the half spaces and play those bit of undefined positions on the pitch. It's something where this team continues to evolve, and I think game over game, you do see where players are getting in their best positions to succeed.
Yeah, you mentioned the wingbacks as well. The other thing with the team, right, is they have all this versatility. They've been so injured. Every other week, it seems like the two starting wingbacks are. The last game they started King on the right and Manjoma on the left. That's different than usual. A couple weeks ago, it was Uzo and Gabby, and they've had so many different combinations there. That speaks to the versatility. You've got a kid like Manjoma who can play on the right, can play on the left. King can play on the right, can play on the left. Uzo can play on the right, can play on the left. He can slide into midfield. So that's the other added aspect of having that versatility is you can just have guys plug gaps when there's injuries and stuff like that.
No, certainly. And I mean, to your point, it seems like we haven't had, listen, we'll call it what it is. Everyone in the chat knows it. We have not had a fully healthy team all season, but really, especially within that wing back core. You're talking Uzo, you're talking, Cuejo, Gabby Torres, all these guys who are playing, on the hugging the sideline. My word, it's just been injury riddled, and it's something where the level really hasn't dropped too far down. Yes, you see some guys here and there who, they're not giving out the most standout performances, but even Babu Kajai, where he has been, he's gotten a very hard luck of it from the fans at times, but even he has responded with, he going and chip a goal in, he'll come have a bounce back performance. The level on that sideline does not seem to completely fall off. It might dip a bit from time to time, but I will say that's something that's been relatively consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, they're all competitors, right? And I think I told Owen a couple weeks ago when I was on the show, I don't think anyone's gotten better from day one of last year to now today, this year, than Babacar Jai. And that's a common theme, and that's the other plus of Juan Guerra is he's been so much better, I think, with his individual player development, and that's turned into a better team as a whole, and that allows, again, that depth that you have where the drop-off isn't that bad because you have individual players that are getting a lot better and growing into the system, and a game model that seemingly tailors these guys almost to a T. If Jai comes in, they tweak the model a little to where he's a little more attacking and the right-sided fullback is a little more defensive to allow Jai to do what he's best at, which is get forward, take guys on, and cross it into the area. If someone else comes in, like let's say a Fuenmayor, that center back is a little more aggressive versus when it's Lambert in the middle, if Traore is in, or Crutzen in the middle, they're less aggressive and more possession-based because Crutzen and Lambert are a little bit better passers. And Fuenmayor is great as well. But there's all these different little intricacies to the way Juan Guerra sets it up to where it works no matter which way they go. And they've had some poor performances. Tampa was unobjectively a poor performance, but especially these last couple weeks, they played well against Hartford. They did the job against Orange County. They have Vegas up next, and Vegas is easily, I think, probably the worst team in the league, maybe outside of Detroit. So you've got another one on Dollar Beer Night where you've got a chance to get it done. And that's the idea, is that you've got all these different players that can fit to play all these different roles against all these different teams and all the different ways that they play. Again, it goes back to the recruitment, how good they have been.
Yeah. No, certainly. You mentioned you can't go wrong no matter which way you go. Our friends at Four Peaks, man, they asked, there it is. Our friends at Four Peaks, you can't go wrong no matter which way you go. And then they got all the different types of beer. They got the Wows, the Kilt Lifters, the Hop Knot, the Hazy IPA. I think I'm giving producer Jacob a migraine over here. Bad. Ooh, I like that. That's got a nice ring to it. He said Adman is a bad man, like a bad.
He didn't say it like how he said it.
I did not. I heard it in the inflection, but no. Our friends at Four Peaks always cooking up the good stuff. the Four Peaks, 4 seats promotion. One lucky winner will get 4 seats to an upcoming Diamondbacks game. Along with tickets come with D-Bucks, some nice little moolah, if you will, some ka-ching, some coin. So grab some food, some wows, some hop knots when you're at the game. You can enter by going to at 4 Peaks Brew on Instagram. Check their link in the bio. Damon did not like that. He gave me a 3 out of 10 for that transition. That's okay. It's honestly not going to stop me. Probably going to make me go even harder on the next one. But you must be 21 years or older to drink 4 Peaks. Please enjoy responsibly. Something else you can enjoy responsibly that you don't need to be 21 years or older. It is our friends at Circle K. I picked up a delicious iced coffee today. And, you guys can cash in on all these nice things that are going on because you are able to get some free stuff from our friends at Circle K. You can text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club today. Get a BOGO. That's a buy one, get one free offer on 32-ounce Polar Pops. That's the big old shebang, man. Oh, man. Ooh, he's coughing. You can use a Polar Pop right now.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it really helps cleanse the palate, especially when you're coughing. I'm not a doctor, but I would recommend that if I was one. But yes, text PHNX to 31310 to join their Texas subscriber club. Get yourself those BOGO Polar Pops. And my word, it's kind of toasty in here. I could really use one. Okay, damn it, that one was better. Hey, we're winning them over slowly but surely. Oh, man. Well, we talked a bit about smooth like a Chiefs car. I love it. Oh, man. Well, we talked a bit about this match against Orange County, and I think there are things we can kind of tease out from the entire season of, defense. First clean sheet, another. Yeah, seriously, which is kind of crazy how it was what is Hartford. It was them and Hartford going into this were the only ones without a clean sheet.
Yeah, so Hartford hadn't had a clean sheet. Rising hadn't had a clean sheet, and the Hartford one I'm desperate for water right now, guys. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
The Hartford one is kind of nice because they got a clean sheet from open play, which they haven't been able to be that successful with this year, but they finally get it done in the full scale.
With a coaster.
Water. Yeah, desperate for water, like I said.
You're good, man.
They finally got it done. And again, it was a game. You talked to Juan Guerra after the game, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him like Owen did, but I went out there at the very end, and Juan very briefly told me, result good, performance bad. And that was the nice thing, is they got a clean sheet when they did not play at their best, and that's really nice to see.
No, certainly. And, I think it's very interesting how this team can run hot or cold sometimes. I see Eddie's comments saying rising against good team equals bad. Rising against bad teams equal good. I don't know, man. There are some performances where you look at this season as a whole. I think Rising often is guilty of playing to the level of their competition, no matter how good or bad they are. And I'm curious to see if anyone in the chat either echoes Eddie's comments or disagrees with them. That you see the matches standing out against a San Diego Loyal where they're drawing at home. Even in the 0-3 loss, at least Owen and I were saying that was actually a relatively good performance given the scoreline. You see them draw against San Antonio, away to San Antonio after going down a man. That these different types of performances, it is something where this team is not a complete team, not a perfect team by any means, but they are able to grind out results against good teams, and yet, and of course, against Birmingham Legion as well. But even then, you see the performances against New Mexico, sloppy performance in the Open Cup. You see against, really just some performances against teams where they could be so much better. Where do we account for that?
So I think it's a little bit of a twist on what Edward said, right? Is Rising are good against the good teams, but they're not great yet, but they're also good against the bad teams, which you kind of should be. Sure. If you're better than a team you're playing, you should beat them, especially in this league. And let's face it, Rising may have more talent than any other team in this league besides maybe San Antonio or Lou City or someone along those lines. Sure. So they should be beating a lot of teams. Let's not sugarcoat it and say that 5th place right now for this group is good, because they could be higher up. Sure. When you are 10 games into the season with a new group, and Juan Guerra again has spoken so often about how by match day 25, that's where they expect to be near or at their best. You're only halfway there. So the fact that they're as high as they are and working on the things they've had and gotten better and still competing against the really good teams and now finally starting to get the results to go their way with back-to-back wins against two teams that are lower down the table. In a lot of ways, that's all you can ask for from them. And they've gotten standout performances from a lot of players that they brought in to be very crucial, very key. You look at Harvey, who's a guy who I think at the beginning of the season, we all thought he was above this level and has, I think, proven that in a lot of ways. Trejo's a guy with MLS experience who's been up and down with LAFC and Las Vegas, and he's played well. The one guy we haven't seen a whole lot of yet is Varela, who might not be fully fit, and we're trying to figure that out. But they're playing these good teams. They're getting good results, at least in the performance. And then at times, Birmingham, San Antonio, they're getting results on paper. And now we're starting to see them, I guess, honestly, finally play bad teams, because it seemed like the first 6 or 7 games of the season, every opponent was top 5 in the East, top 5 in the West, top 3 in the East, top 3 in the West.
Certainly.
So they were playing a lot of good teams and still getting results. Now they're getting these easier teams here in May before a tougher stretch in June, and they're getting the results that we expect them to go and get. That's always, again, that's all you can ask for as a fan, is you beat the teams that you're expected to beat.
100%. I mean, going off of BJ's comment, talking about prior matches, a horrible start should have been down at least 1-0. So sometimes you can play bad, get a result. It happens at every season, at every level. And I think the thing that I think is, I would say, promising is Rising has gotten performances when they, I don't want to say have been the worst team, but they clearly have not played up to a complete performance. They have had poor games. They have had poor showings. And even when they're not at their best, not even close to their best, they are able to grind out results. And the thing I would even go a step further in saying is, if you're going to choose to have, and my personal preference, I'm curious to hear your opinion, if you have to choose between a team who is having performances that are greater than the results, so they're having good performances, maybe they're not getting all 3 points, they're not coming away with draws, or you have a team who they're grinding out results, they're getting the 3 points, the 1 point, but there may be outliers. I would rather have a team who their performances are better than their results, knowing that over the long haul of a long season, the results will raise to that level, versus the other way around. Man, you have some teams in a weird USL championship season where everything is upside down and topsy-turvy. I don't bank on a lot of the teams who are top, especially in the East, being there by season end, rising. Think they will be towards the top.
Yeah, and I think to answer your question, right, we had that for a long time. And not to say that the rising performances in the previous era under Rick Schantz were poor as like a straight up performance level, but like they were still getting results and not playing the prettiest version of the game. And so you asked that question of like, well, hey, for the longest of time as viewers of this sport in the Valley, we had a team that kind of played ugly soccer, but won a lot. And it was enjoyable, but now you get a team that's playing gorgeous, gorgeous brands of soccer. And at the beginning of the season, it's not the results, but there's all this conversation and all this trust in Juan Guerra to get it there. I think ideally you want to trust the process of it, not to say the Sixers or anything trustworthy, but you want to trust that process a little bit of like, hey, early stages, it might be rough, but they're playing good football. And at the end of the day, by match day 25, when we've kind of been given this D-Day of this is when it's going to happen, this is when we're going to start to really be in full form, that's when you want the results to start to fully follow. If they're not by then you might press the panic button a little bit. But right now, I think I'd certainly, like you said, rather have the performance over the result, knowing that the expectation is the result will come with the performance later on, and then you have the best of both worlds, and that's the most fun way you can have it.
No, sir, and even your, the notion of like, hey, they're in the past, yes, the soccer in the Valley has not always been the most attractive. It gets results. This is definitely a different spin on it. And there are even times where I'm looking at what they're trying to do, and I'm thinking, I get what they're trying for. Personally, to me, it's not always coming across as the most attractive, but it's because the style in which they're looking to play, you don't learn that overnight. It's not something that, oh, cool, you put 11 guys on the pitch and that's the easiest way to play. No, the easier way to play is to go route one.
That's how San Antonio does.
Exactly. No, but it's something where what they're looking to do, it's not, in my eyes, not always coming across as pretty, but when it does and what they're building towards, very entertaining and something that's also more sustainable in my eyes, because you're able to have a bit more flexibility with the players, bit more. I think it's also personally a lot easier on the mileage on the body a bit, but you can take control of games. And there are two schools of thought within the game where either you want to control the ball or you don't want to control the ball. You want to press the team. And Juan Guerra, he wants to have the ball.
Yeah, and Thomas brought up a good point. I think it was on the screen a second ago about how like grinding out results. It's a sign of a team with heart and fight. Well, in all honesty, you can still have a team that plays and puts together a good performance and still do that. And obviously it doesn't always perfectly translate, and I think we all know that, right? But there's also a lot of that heart in these pretty performances that we see. And in an arguable way, more heart and more passion for the badge than there was maybe even before. And the other reason I think that Rising have put together a way and a style like this where they want to play under Juan Guerra and they want to keep the ball is the way the league has changed over the last couple of years, where it is more talent-based. They want to get players and move them along because this league has now become a viable option to move players on. And when you're playing pretty football, it's a lot easier for you to move guys on. It's a lot easier for Rising. While we all want to keep Harvey and we all want to keep Trejo and we all want to keep these guys, it's a lot better for Rising as a club if they're able to sell Carlos Harvey up to an MLS team or a European team, or sell Trejo to an MLS team or a European team. You're going to get more money that way, and everybody obviously at this stage and this level of the sport wants to be financially stable. So you're playing this game of like, hey, not only are we going to play pretty football, it's likely to elevate our ceiling, which is what we really want to do as a team that's never won a USL title. So they want to elevate their ceiling. They want to win a title, and this is the likeliest way you do it, by playing good football. You want to play for the badge, which by having a coach that represents the community and represents the people strongly like Garrett does, and then also having that heart, having that grit to go out there and get results done. There's a lot of different factors to bring it together. And again, 10 games in, we can only expect a lot more time for that to fully realize itself. Again, if you were to ask me 10 games in, this is where Rising was at on the table, I think I'd be a little disappointed, but understanding. And I think that's where I'm at right now in the same way, especially when you consider how well they've played in terms of some of the performances. The ups and the downs have been vast, but the ups have been really fun to watch.
No, sir. Well, let's actually get into that. It actually brings up a good point. Is, you mentioned
good transition.
Good transition. No, you don't worry. It's not a transition yet, folks. But no, you mentioned it's, you look at them as at the table and be a little bit disappointed. This is a question I don't even know what the right answer is. Just looking anecdotally, when you saw the hype in the preseason, when you saw the roster being assembled, knowing where players are coming from, and even just, it's probably a lot of it, the Rising pedigree weighing on you. Where do you believe, if you're trying to put a crystal ball in place, Rising, would have been a more realistic sense for them to be at the table at this point, if you're, let's say, saying this in preseason?
So I think if you had told me they're fifth in the Western Conference, say maybe sixth, somewhere in that range. If you had told me that, I would have understood it, simply because you're a team figuring out, and they're sixth, just behind Switchbacks. So it's like, I would have understood it 10 games in. You're trying to mesh together a group. You've got a tough front end of your schedule this year, especially when you consider some of the teams that we didn't think Rising would be playing would be that good, have been. You look at Charleston as a perfect example, right? Like, I think sixth, that 5-6 range makes sense. You would have maybe hoped for something a little higher. Again, the Rising pedigree carries a lot of that. There might not be a team more recognizable in this division other than maybe Tampa Bay Rowdies, but that's more to do with how old they are as a club, not with their recent success in this league. So the pedigree carries a lot of that, especially, and then the players they brought in, Trejo coming in, Varela coming in from Europe. You bring in a guy like Harvey, who's played well at times last year for LA Galaxy 2. There was an expectation, and I don't think you're always going to hit that expectation right there, right away. So sixth, to me, is something, as a viewer of this team and a viewer of this sport and a viewer of this league as well, getting a chance to watch every other team in the league so far, is understandable, with the idea that the ceiling is so much higher than sixth, that they should expect to be in that 2 through 4 type of range.
Certainly. And when Owen and I were previewing this season as a whole and looking at the schedule, it was no secret that these first 2 months were going to be brutal. I mean, you're looking at who Rising's playing in the West. You had, San Antonio, 2 games early against Loyal, knocking those out. Monterey Bay, never an easy challenge. But then even the cross-country trips, you're going across the coast to Charleston, to Birmingham. Like, you have a game, more games upcoming against Tampa Bay Rowdies as well. Like, you have all these cross-country trips. Factor that in with home competition and away competition against tough West opponents. It was by no means going to be an easy stretch. And people are saying this 9-game stretch that I swear Owen and I have been talking about for the last 2 weeks, that they are taking the points needed, but this is not going to be the only stretch that is a winnable one. You have to take them where you can get them, but it's more about just a 3-game stretch. It's seeing the improvement in the performance 1 game at a time and just capitalizing on your opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it's a club. I think earlier in the year I was reading an article or something from one of the guys who covers USL, and he said Rising have the easiest closing stretch to the season of any team. And we've talked a lot today about that game 25, match day 25. That's when they expect to be at their best. Well, hey, those last 10 games, that's when your stretch is easiest, and that's when you're supposed to be playing the best.
Certainly.
You're looking at a team that is supposed to get hot at the right time, at the right place, and start to get results and gather them as the season hits its closing stretch right before playoffs, and that's when you want to be winning games. So the schedule and the way they put the fixture list together really favors a lot of the way this team is trying to construct early opponents to maybe accelerate their development process that are really good, and late opponents that are going to maybe give them some of the results and the opportunities to get 3 points on the board that really needs to show for the table and the playoff spots as well.
I mean, there was a point in this season, and granted, it was after 2 matches and Rising had a game in hand, where you lose 3-0 to San Diego, you only get 1 point from the opener against Charleston. I think they were bottom of the table with a -3 goal differential. Like, these things don't just happen in one game isolations. And I'm not trying to contradict myself by saying you do have to focus one game at a time. But when you look at the whole of the season, one good game or one bad game is not going to make or break you. And I think we have seen this team, to their credit, bounce back and rarely have. I can't remember a performance where they've had two games where they've had back-to-back performances where they just stunk it up.
Yeah, there was a period of time where they didn't have back-to-back games where they were really good either.
True.
And that still holds, I think, because you look at, they played pretty well against Hartford, did not play the greatest against OC. This league also, when you look at it, post-Orange County USL Championship in 21, all that matters is getting into the playoffs. And the regular season is great, and it should be important, especially now when you look at what's changed in the scheduling. 8 teams out of the 12 in your conference make the postseason. Make the playoffs.
Yeah.
You have to really be awful to not make the final stretch. And Rising have too much talent to be that bad. They're going to be in the postseason. And that means that pretty much every step, match day 1 through 34, is them trying to build the best version of themselves for the playoffs, because they should be there anyway. So, like, you're really looking at this regular season, not to be overconfident in what they can be as a team, but it's almost like a 34-game preseason of sorts, where you're building block by block, brick by brick, every day, trying to get yourself there for what really matters, which is when you're among the last 16 going in it by an elimination game format.
Absolutely. No. And I mean, I think like the best version of myself is when I'm at Valley Tap Room, where I am dominating in trivia with Owen. I'm carrying the team, absolutely just destroying it with the advertising questions. Of course, you got that with all the branding stuff. Absolutely took home first place. It wasn't even darn close. They, of course, have all the nicest things on there. The Trivia Tuesdays. They got Wednesday 35% off wine bottles, live music on Friday. They had a cornhole tournament last Saturday. They got all the good stuff there. Check out our friends at Valley Tap Room on Instagram at Valley Tap Room, and visit them off the 2 and 2 and Gilbert. They always have new promotions and whatnot cooking up. So make sure to check them out. And, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but if you were to partake a little Valley Tap Room by indulging some OGs, then more than welcome to, because they got quite a plethora, a variety, a smorgasbord, a cornucopia, thesaurus guy, of flavors. They have the mixed bags, right? Here we're talking about them. The fruits, the watermelon, the red apple, the peach, the creams, the blackberries and cream, the orange creamsicle, and, of course, friend of the pod, Snoop Dogg, the peaches and cream. He absolutely loves that stuff. Producer Jacob, you're miffed.
Never had him on.
What?
Never had him on.
He's saying that Snoop Dogg is not a friend of the pod because he hasn't been on. Ryan's face does it sell. That's fair. He's blown away by these. Snoop Dogg, I know you're listening, and make sure to check out the creams of OG's brands. Also, Pink Lemonade dropping on June 21st. You love them. Find them at your local dispensary at ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. You must be 21 plus years or older to enjoy responsibly. Something that we're enjoying responsibly. Been a very nice conversation. I want to get your thoughts on really just, we'll take a little bit of I want to say lighter side of it, but maybe some anecdotes of some of the players you've enjoyed watching or ones that stand out to you. I'm curious first. I'm going to maybe do a little rapid fire, but take the time you need in answering. Which player do you believe has surprised you the most this season?
I don't want to say Carlos Anguiano, because I don't think he's played enough legitimately on the field in a competitive environment to fully hit that mark yet. But the way Juan Guerra talks about him as a player in the locker room, and also as a trainer, is really cool to watch. A guy who's, in all honesty, shouldn't be competing at this kind of level in his stature and his size, and he does. That one's really impressive. I think from a guy who's played a lot, I've been really, really impressed with Alejandro Fuenmayor. Comes over from Oakland with Juan, was one of only 2 guys to come over from Oakland, a good Oakland team, with Juan in this offseason. And you knew he'd start, you knew he'd be good, and you knew what you were getting because Juan knew what he was getting. And I think when he plays in the heart of that defense, it's so much better. It's so much cleaner. It's so much more confident because Crutzen and Lambert can do their thing a little bit more, and Fuenmayor is just going to give you a solid performance every single time. So he's someone that I think goes under the radar that has really impressed me this year because the difference when he's not on the pitch and when he is, there's a lot more confidence and a lot more freedom for everybody else to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I have not seen that guy lose a duel in the air. Like he's a brick bleep house for those of you who can fill in the blank there. I think it's something where that gives you such confidence, and you already know that they have a decent amount of height back there, but even just the way that he doesn't seem to get rattled under pressure, something that is very nice to me. My 2 picks actually are his backmates on the back line. I mean, Kevin Lambert to me isn't a surprise just knowing the player that he is. He's a guy who's going to figure it out. He's been a longevity for this team, but really just we've seen it last year and we've seen it before how he, is able to transition and be on that back line, but something where you look at it this year, and maybe where last year there's bits of spurts of, he's trying to figure it out, or, this is out of position, quote unquote, for him. Man, he just looks right at home there. It seems like he has been playing this his entire career, seemingly.
Yeah, he's figured it out really, really quickly. It's a sign of a guy who's been there, done that, knows how to play the role, and he was so often this defensive midfield destroyer. And what's really unique about his role is Thomas is ahead of me, right? Is his ability. He can drop from midfield into that center back role, and then when they have possession to possess the ball, he slides outside. He plays as a right back and he carries the ball across the line. And even a couple times against Orange County, we're seeing his confidence in that role grow because he's making overlapping runs into the final third now finally, which is kind of crazy because he was a big, huge ball-winning defensive midfielder who then turned into a center back and is now turning into someone who can get into the area and cross in a ball. He didn't do a good job of it against Orange County, but it's the confidence to get up into those spaces. He's someone, again, that's awesome. That's trust in the coaching staff, trust in the model, and repaying their trust in you by growing yourself as a player.
Sir, I mean, BJ is saying it best. Lambert has the ability to know where to be at the right time. It's him and Carlos Harvey are really those guys where they have their positions and they know when to go forward, when to ebb and flow, and just the interchange that they've had with the midfield and everything like that. It is awesome to see. The other guy I was going to shout out as the surprise is Daniel Crutzen. I know that when you're playing overseas, you have that certain pedigree. You have that, that I guess a bit of that aura about you. But even just the way where he just has that instinct of, man, if he's going to be able to hit a first time switch or whatever across the field in the corner, you can hit that thing 40, 50 yards, and most often seemingly going to come off. And I will say, after that first match against San Diego Loyal, where he helped open the scoring for Loyal off a very poor back pass, ever since that moment, he has not been 100% perfect, but my word, he has been locked in.
Yeah, Fuenmayor has the same ability to drive the ball over and drop it on the money every time. What's nice about Crutzen is we've seen this league turn into something of, hey, we're going to take the guys who've fallen out of MLS and we're going to pick up the guys who are really good in League One and use it as that bridge. Crutzen comes from Canada, the Canadian Premier League, where nobody's getting players. And they found him as a club, brought him in, and he's been perfect. He's been a starter every time he's been fit, and he adds the level of where Lambert is so good at winning the ball and being this duelist and then carrying it as a leader and a ball carrier from that right back spot. When he stretches out to the left back spot, they're so clean in their little passing triangles and their ability to possess and play the space of just Hernandez will check in and he'll give it to Crutzen. Crutzen will give it back to him, and then Crutzen will play the ball after he gets it back. And he has some of the most aesthetically pleasing play of anybody on the roster. It's been nice to watch him as some guy who's now almost the quarterback back there. Fuenmayor can play that role, but now Crutzen is perfect at these long diagonals, but also great at just understanding when not to do that and when to go low and when to play it short and when to build patiently. A lot of these long passing moves that we see are played through him more often than not, where he'll have 4 or 5 touches in his own right in these 20, 30 pass sequences.
Certainly. Also, that's a very nice shot by Thomas. Rocco has been a surprise. I thought his height would have been a liability, but the man has been Superman all season. He has really fantastic positioning for a goalkeeper, and regardless of size, people can often get lazy. In fact, if anything, the taller you are sometimes, you can kind of be a bit sloppy with your footwork and positioning and let that overcompensate. He doesn't have that luxury. So he seemingly, even when he's allowed goals, it doesn't seem to be a lack of not being in the right place. I can only recount on maybe one occasion where I think he's got his footing wrong at some of the goals. But I mean, honestly, you really can't ask for more from that position.
His height was a liability. That first game against Charleston where they were shoving 4 or 5 guys into the 6-yard box, like his height was a liability. They were struggling on set pieces. And since then, we haven't seen a lot of teams do that again, which surprises me as somebody who watches a lot of these teams because you've got to prep for the broadcasts, for the radio, and you understand that these teams have the height to take advantage of something like that, and they don't. They should probably a little bit more, but it's because Rocco is such a good shot stopper, they kind of can't test him because he's so good and he's going to step up to that. And he's been great on his feet. There have been a couple moments this year where Rocco is missed on some stuff, but when you're a goalie who is that aggressive and has that much of the ball, you're never going to be perfect every time. I think he's been a surprise as well. I hope he stays. I hope Lanús don't bring him back, and I think I have faith in Rakowski as the backup goalkeeper, but Rios Novo is just that much superior, I think, that you would want him over anybody else in the team. You can replace guys like at the fullback spots like we've seen. The midfield spots, there's depth there. Conway can come in for Arteaga.
Certainly.
Rios Novo feels like the one guy that feels like you can't lose him at any point in the season. He seems like a big key to the success.
No, certainly. I think Rakowski has incredibly underrated footwork.
He's like a midfielder.
And exactly, a very underrated positioning in there. But, I mean, Rocco, right, he is the guy who, for all the praise that we are heaping on the defense, and deservedly so, Rocco has been the brick wall for this team. Your favorite rising player to watch, and this could be a specific performance you had in mind, or even just day in and day out when you see that guy on the team sheet, you're like, oh, let's go.
I know there's a couple of people who are involved in the radio production group of people that love Babacar Jai just because he looks and walks and moves like a top player. I'm more of a fan, and I really love Jose Andres Hernandez, and I think that there's something special about a guy who is that diminutive in stature, but that beautiful at finding the space. It seems like there's never a guy who's within 5-10 yards of him, not because he's quick or not because he's strong. It's just he's so intelligent at turning his head, finding the spaces and picking it up, taking one touch into the right space, playing it off. He's someone who's so simple, but also has that little twist of magic and can really create something. He's been on, I guess, what is it, a hockey assist where you play it off and then the guy who gets the assist actually happens, right? So he's had a couple of those this year where he's picked that across in a play of magic, but we go back always to the simplicity that he has, and that's why he gets into the team, despite not really fitting in physically at all, or not really fitting in pace-wise at all, but mentally so smart and technically so brilliant, and just his ability to play simple and then have the one moment and know when to take that moment to make something happen. He's the guy I think I have the most fun watching, but I guess the obvious answer is probably Harvey as well, who's just kind of everything. I don't know what this team would look like without Carlos Harvey. Just because he's above this level. He could walk into an MLS bench tomorrow, I think, and be fine. It's nice to have a guy like that.
No, sir. And I mean, I think it's so fascinating that you picked two midfielders who, I mean, my word, how they could not be more different. But I think the part about Jose Andres Hernandez that I very much enjoy, similar to Rocco, in where you do not have that height advantage, there's no secret, is midfield mates tower over him, and he does not have that physicality in the midfield. So what do? You have to overcompensate by turning your head, by having that look over your shoulder, but as I literally crack my neck by doing that, but having the turn over the shoulder, making sure that your first touch and his first touch, and even the second, third touch afterwards, there's no wasted motion. Oftentimes it's forward. Even if he ends up passing it back, he is always looking to really play that next ball in and be incredibly deliberate in the buildup. I think that's something where this team hums when he's in.
He's got to be the smartest guy on the field at every time, and more often than not, he is. And that's a great quality to have as someone who is in a team that needs intelligent players, that need guys to pick up spaces, because that's how you keep the ball, and that's what Juan Guerra wants, is guys who are good at keeping the ball. And Harvey's good at keeping the ball because he's just massive and he's great on the ball. His technical quality is underrated, but Hernandez is good at keeping the ball because he's so intelligent. I think he might be the smartest guy on the team.
Rising player that you are looking to, I would say, over this next set of, call it 10 matches or so, that you're looking to watch out for.
What do you think the most obvious answer is? Because I think there's one really obvious answer, and I think everyone's going to be on the same page with this one, and that's Fede Varela. I feel like he's a guy who was brought in, European pedigree, was deemed by a lot of people in a couple of metrics, apparently. I still haven't seen the graphs. So as a top 5 passer, a Kevin De Bruyne level passer, I don't know if we've seen that, but we have in moments. When he gets on the ball, he's so perfect. We just haven't seen it enough. He's the guy that I wouldn't call him a disappointment yet because, again, we're only 10 games in, but we can see more because we know there's something in there that's a little bit more. I think he's the obvious choice, and I think it's the very clear choice that's smart to go with as well.
Yeah, I honestly, it's difficult to argue with that one. I guess there's up to interpretation on the question of where you look at who to watch, whether that's someone to watch out as being a threat or someone as, hey, this is someone who we're looking to have a bounce back. If you read it in the bounce back, I completely agree. I think it's something where when he is on his level, he is a step above a lot of players, but I think much like a lot of these rising performances as a whole, just hasn't been consistent. I think it's something where I really am hoping that he has a nice 10-match stretch because there are times where he has not, I would say, earned that guy who's always going to be starting in that space. There are guys who have come in, played very well, and has given him a run for his money.
And I'd also say that he's the obvious choice, maybe less so because of what he's done, but more so because of everybody else. You go top to bottom. Rios Novos exceeded expectations. Rakowski doesn't count. He's a backup goalie. But the back line, Traore, when he's been good, he's been good. When he's played, he's been great as a left back, as a center back, as a right back. The back three we've already talked about and brought them all up as success stories this year. That midfield of not Fuenmayor, Harvey, and then Zambrano and Hernandez and Aranguiano have all overperformed at times this year. Trejo, when he's good, is good. Arteaga's got 5 goals. Fede almost by default feels like the guy you have to go with because everybody else has either met or exceeded the expectation we've put on them.
Sure.
And it just feels like Varela is the one individual amongst a group of individuals that have been great that has kind of been subpar at times.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's an interesting bunch. I will say it's definitely a loaded crew, and I think it's managing expectations. It's guys who trying to fit the mold, trying to balance with this team everything. I do want to shout out before I get too far the diehards who are in our chat. Appreciate you guys joining. Always killing it with the comments. CBJ with Trejo as the nice shout of guy who's looking to watch. Very solid. Everyone in our chat and everyone who, whether you're a diehard or not, appreciate you guys. If you're interested in becoming a diehard, check out phnxlocker.com to grab your membership, receive exclusive content, discount on all events, merch, all that jazz. We have an awesome event coming up on Friday. This Friday, May 26th, can be the Keeping It 100 golf tournament presented by Pins and Aces and Big Drive Energy. Everyone who signs up going to get a Pins and Aces polo with PHNX collab in it. Very cool. You can register in the show notes. Everyone who signs up, you're literally going to get free booze, free water, free food, free snacks, free gifts, free giveaways, everything like that. Whether you like golf or not, it's a fantastic way to pregame of sorts for Rising's Dollar Beer Night later that night on Friday. So please join us if you guys are interested. Really going to be an absolutely fantastic time. I'll be out there. I might hit a shot or two. So, you drive it further than me. Maybe I'll buy you a beer if you're lucky. So very difficult to do. Very good at golf. You say you're pretty good at golf.
No comment. If I show up, I want everyone to underestimate me. I don't know.
That's fair. No, but all right, fair enough. Very Owen-esque on sitting on the fence and not giving a definitive answer. I do respect that. But yes, appreciate everyone who is a diehard and who's coming out to our event. Again, check the link in the show notes to grab your spot. No, we're getting towards the end here. I want to do rapid fire, a little grading system, if you will. We'll do a nice A to F type scale. Go position by position. Goalkeeper.
Rios Novo. B minus. Rakowski has not played enough to earn a grade for me, but Rios Novo B minus.
Okay. We'll go defense.
Fuenmayor B. Lambert B. Crutzen, I think, has been the best out of the group because I think he's played the most, and I'd go B plus. It's a lot of B's because again we know we can see more.
This man's a tough grader. I like it though. I like it. No,
we know there's more out there. And then Traore's like a B minus. I don't know if he's done enough to.
That's fair. Okay, so what I'm hearing is like, this is the hard kind of harsh grading curve. It levels out the curve, but then maybe a little. Oh, hey, can you round my grade up? Towards the end of the year, seeing how it goes. I like it.
Polite to the people who haven't given me enough. I respect to the people who've given me enough.
I respect that. How about the midfield?
Harvey's an A, maybe A plus. He's the best one of the bunch. Hernandez is an A. Zambrano, B minus, C plus, somewhere in there. He's been good, but not special. Carlitos, from what he is an A minus. From what you'd expect Carlitos to be, he's there. Quaisho's not played enough. I'm trying to think of the other central midfielders in the team. I guess Fede kind of is probably a C minus, C, just because, again, we don't know enough. We haven't seen enough, but we know there's more out there. Is there anybody else? No,
off the top, I was gonna say off the top of my head. I'm like trying to tick them off in my head.
Tobo Aurora doesn't count.
Fair. Attack, and I'm gonna save the number 9 for last, outside of the number 9 position.
Yeah, and I'd consider the wingbacks as members of the attacking spaces because of the way Rising go forward, where those wingbacks get way high up there. Manjoma started off as like a C minus and has progressed himself up to probably a B minus or so. King is not getting in teams anymore, and that's curious to me because he's the club captain, so I'd go C, just perfect solid in the middle. Uzo, when he plays, is like an A minus. I love Uzo.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Beautiful to watch when he gets on the ball in those high up the field spots and can just take guys on. Jai is a B because he's made some mistakes. His ups have been really up, and his downs have been like, I don't know if he should touch the field. I think I already said Quaisho in the midfield area, but as a winger, as a wingback, he's probably been a B plus as well. Gabby Torres hasn't played enough, but when he has, probably a B, B minus, B plus, somewhere in that range.
Good couple assists.
He's had good performances, but I want him to get fit and play more.
That's fair.
I don't think I'm getting anybody else. Again, we've named all the fullbacks. It feels like because there's so many of them. Trejo's an A, maybe A plus. Again, he's probably been the most consistent Rising guy in the attacking areas. He's been fun to watch. Other guys that have played in the attacking number 10 roles, Quaisho, he's played as a centerman, played as a wingback. As a 10, he might be so fun to watch. I think Thomas earlier said when he's good at finding the spaces, he's insane in the passes, good at picking up the pockets. So he's an A minus in those roles. And you said you wanted to wait for the number 9.
I did. Well, and I'll go back real quick to the attackers that you named. It's interesting how I think when these guys are on, the grades honestly stand out pretty well to me. They line up. I think it's finding the consistency, right, of can they replicate this match over match? And to BJ's point,
Gallardo.
So far so good on the grading. Will be interesting to see the grades when everyone is healthy and has more than 5 games together. That Gallardo, that's a fair shout. Yeah.
Ericsson's a tricky one because I like Eriksson, but he's so different to anybody else on the team that he's almost on his own scale because this team doesn't have a lot of pure pace guys, pure runners, and he is that. I think he's probably like a... Yeah, I'd give him a B minus right now because, again, he does something so different, so it's a different sort of scale to grade him from. But I think he adds something that's spectacular, but he's not done anything super spectacular yet.
Fair enough. And last but not least, the number 9 position, probably the most polarizing so far, given the performances / matching, not matching the output.
I don't know. What do y'all think of Conway? Because I don't want to jump in on Jackson Conway yet because he hasn't played enough.
I think I can't give him a grade. There's not really a sample size.
I don't know.
If we're I don't know if it's too soon.
The red card might dock him.
We had Jackson. We had Jackson on the show earlier. Love the guy. He was fantastic interview, and I do think there is a lot of promise with him. Yeah. Regardless. Listen, that back elbow, that's a nice UFC. We're talking, bam, that's a little spilling elbow. That gives me a high grade for there. I just don't think it's, in my mind, enough of a sample size. You see bits and pieces here, 5 minutes, 15. The longest stretch he had, I think, was what? Other than the U.S. Open Cup start, 15, half an hour?
20,
I think maybe 25 minutes, not even.
And Jackson's a good dude. We went to one of the practices, and he was the only guy who was asking us what the radio stuff was. He's a good dude. I don't know if he's played enough. That's why I ask you guys, because I want to get the people's, and I think that's a fair grade from Thomas. The C, just not enough. Arteaga is when Manu is bad, it's we have guys that are there's guys out there that are C's and then they're B's. When Manu is not playing well, it's like a D minus, and it's just he's not on the field.
Yeah.
when he's good, he's the best player out there. So like, maybe the best player. Certainly the most important guy out there. So like by default, that feels like a B. But I think the bad is outweighed the good in moments, and he ghosts too often, and it's hard because he's ghosted more often in front of the home fans than he has on the road. I think he's got 4 goals on the road and 1 at home this year. No, it's the other way around. Other way around. But he ghosts at home, and it's like, or he scores these goals, but he's not great at home in terms of the other stuff. But when he goes on the road, he's really fun to watch. He's just not scoring goals. So C+ isn't bad. I think I'd go B- or B because he's still scoring goals. He just needs to be a little more consistent. That's the key one, is consistency. If he can give you not necessarily even a goal a game, but just a performance a game and a goal every other game like he's doing, like, you'll take that. So I'd go B-.
I think it's so interesting you said, and I don't know if it's like, I'm curious how much recency bias is or is not playing a factor, which, fair. He scores the decisive winner in this last match against OC. Yeah, man, when he is, I agree with this sentiment in that when he is not on, it is absolutely tough. Granted, he has not gone the best of service. That has also been reliably inconsistent, but he is not doing himself any favors. He's a guy who, if he doesn't have the service, he really is a liability to the team. So that part stands out. Yeah, I mean, when he is able, that touch of brilliance that he had against OC, I really hope that is signs for more to come and not just an outlier. So the B- overall, it's going to be an interesting one. We'll make sure to just clip that in after a poor performance. Well, look at what Ryan thinks, B- overall from Arteaga. But no, no. But
it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Deep fake.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, hey, we appreciate you joining, man. I think that's going to do it for us. We continued a lot of great stuff. OC Dim with the comment, he needs to continue to be in the right place at the right time. Absolutely. Thomas with Arteaga C+, that's fair. But no, thank you everyone for joining. This was a fun episode. It's nice to kind of zoom out and take a look at a whole, especially give a different perspective. That's not one just Owen or myself.
It's nice to get away from Owen is what he's trying to say.
I'm not trying to say it. It's very nice to get away from Owen. He's that guy sometimes. But no, appreciate you guys joining us. You can follow us at PHNX _ Rising, because double the underscore.
Double the fun.
Oh my gosh. You
come on.
Am I closing my eyes? Is this Owen?
I know,
my gosh. I love it. No, but you can follow me at Max Simpson. They can follow you at Sykora
Ryan? First. Because Owen thought that was stupid, and I was like, I don't know. I just put it on there. Underscore Sykora Ryan.
Okay, underscore Sykora Ryan on Twitter. And yeah, man, that's going to do it for us. We will be back. Owen and I will be back on Wednesday at 6. Again, Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, the post-match against a Las Vegas Lights dollar beer night. Let's freaking go. But yeah, join us on Wednesday at 6. More analysis to look ahead for Lights. But until then, appreciate you guys joining us, and we will catch you then. Peace. Have a good night.